Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon when you're watching this video. In the discussion in relation to business economics, when we started the unit 1 of chapter 1, which is introduction chapter, in the earlier classes, we discussed about some of the aspects in relation to the origin and history of the modern economics and what is the central theme of economics, particularly in relation to the human wants being unlimited, but the means to satisfy them being limited, and what basically the economics focuses about, ultimately, irrespective of what all the big things we talk. It all melts down to two things. One is production, second one is distribution. And what is the role of economics in giving a right perspective to find out suitable measures in dealing with various challenges faced by businesses, societies, economies, countries as a whole, we can say the human civilization itself. So how business economics or economics in general helps in solving the basic challenges faced by human civilization is the general understanding of what economics is all about. In addition to that, what is business economics and what kind of questions that business economics will try to answer or create analytical tools or concepts which will enable the managers to get answers for such kind of questions is another important aspect of knowing. We can say one way the scope of business economics and importance of business economics, or we can even call it significance of business economics. So those are all the questions that business economics will not have answers, but it will give an idea. It will give the theory and techniques so that answers to those questions can be found in reality. So simply, business economics integrates the economic theory with business practice. That's what we also observed in the earlier classes. And what kind of aspects that business economics, particularly microeconomics, deals with, that also we just touched upon the names of them, which are going to be basically our chapter names in future. Demand, supply, cost, price, competition, etc. Consumer behavior also included in that. So what is the role of business economics in the business decision making, and what is the process of decision making in general? In the way of decision making, we should have alternatives, and those alternatives have to be rationally analyzed and evaluated. Then proper decisions can be taken by using various techniques like operations research, statistics, mathematics, and other theories of decision making. So definitely business economics is helpful as a tool, as a technique, or as a concept which enables the process of making a business policy or business decision making more scientific and more rational. And another point to be just noted is that just we are saying business economics does not mean these concepts are not useful for not-for-profit organizations. We cannot say that, which means the concepts of economics are also definitely helpful, not only for profit-making or profit-motive-oriented organizations for business, or those which are not for profit organizations also, like charities, like welfare societies. Those things also can use the principles of economics. So economics is not restricted to only business. The principles can be applied across different types of organizations, is what another thing we learned in earlier classes. Of course, as a continuation of that, we discussed about what is the definition of business economics, and it is simply using the economic analysis in the formulation of business policies as defined by Joel Dean. So like this, many definitions can be given, but ultimately the name of business economics itself indicates, one, it has economic analysis, two, it has business policy making, helping tools imbibed in that. So what are those tools? There could be many things, though we are not going to use them now, though we are not going to learn them now, but definitely there are certain quantitative techniques which will be used in real life applied economics, where the theories are going to be applied for the purpose of business policy making. And in this case of our textbook, where we are going to apply or where we are going to learn business economics, our focus is going to be mostly on the microeconomic theory only, wherein we will look at the behavior of consumers and firms in the competitive markets, means market economy. Of course, they will give a lot of good inputs for the managers to take business decisions, but as we already discussed, taking the decisions in reality is going to happen in the outside world. And what we are trying to do here is to understand the principles of microeconomics and how they might be helpful in business decision making in a theoretical way. We are going to understand. Real application of that definitely cannot be done in the classrooms. That will be done by the business managers, really who are running the organizations. As future business managers, you should also know the principles of microeconomics, which might be helpful in future for you in the decision making process related to businesses. That is the purpose why business economics is included as part of syllabus at foundation level. That is the reason we have this focus on microeconomics at this level. However, macroeconomics also is important aspect, which we will discuss at a later stage in CA intermediate level in the group 2 of CA intermediate as economics for finance. And we also discussed about examples actually, not that this is entire microeconomics, this is entire macroeconomics, nothing like that. Examples of what aspects will be generally covered in microeconomics, like product pricing, consumer behavior, like factor pricing, economic conditions of a particular people, particular one section of people, not the entire society, behavior of the firms particularly, location of industry. These are all various items which are part of microeconomic considerations. And there are many things which are related to a broader aggregates. Whenever we use the word aggregates, we are talking about macroeconomics. So when we talk about microeconomics, we are particularly talking about individuals and organizations only. That is the difference we understood in the earlier classes. And some examples of the areas which macroeconomics touches are also just generally outlined. Again, we are not going to discuss any of them. We are only just going to know that these are all part of macroeconomics. That's all. We are not going to really do any further learning in the following areas. That will be done at a later stage. But right now, we are only knowing, okay, if we talk about national income, like GDP, etc., GNP, GDP, all those things are going to happen at macroeconomics level. If we talk about interest rates, we talk about inflation, balance of trade, balance of payments, currency fluctuations, valuation of foreign currencies, savings, investment, employment, growth, each of these words is referring to macroeconomics particularly. So that is the point here to be noted. Macroeconomics includes these type of areas, which of course we just know the names now, meaning of them, what is the importance of them in a country. We have a full-fledged subject on that in group 2 CA intermediate at a later stage. In addition to that, we discussed about the nature of business economics. We started the discussion on that in the earlier class. Like what? Business economics is a science and it is based mostly on microeconomics, though it incorporates some elements of macro analysis also. So business economics is a science also. Of course, it also acts as an art because it has both the features. Because science generally is dependent upon microeconomics, and whereas as a science, it is a kind of knowledge area which establishes the cause and effect relationships. And we do understand many cause and effect relationships in future. So that proves business economics is a science. Then what is the proof that it is an art? Because unless these are actually applied in real life, these things are not going to be of any use. That means the theories of business economics themselves are not going to be enough. They have to be applied by a proper person also. So if there is a scientific thing, if anybody does it, the resultant should be same. But if it is art, if two people do it, the result could be completely different. So that is another proof that economics is also an art, and economics is also a science because it has a lot of economic theories. So there is a theory part, there is a application part. That is why theory part we can call it science, application part we can call it art. It is both. Same way it is both micro and macro, but focus on most what? Micro. Same here also. Focus on most what? Scientific aspects. Art and all, you are not going to definitely be worried about that because that will be done in the real life. That you are not going to be an artist of business economics in future. Practical application we are not going to do. But our focus will be mostly on what? As a science, what is business economics? What are the economic theories that it suggests? Same way, at foundation level, what is our focus? It is going to be the microeconomics. That is the major focus area as far as business economics is concerned. Of course, macroeconomic analysis also will be important, though we will not focus much now. And what these business economics theories use generally? They use generally the market theory and private enterprises, not public enterprises, means not governmental things. So simply in one word, we can say business economics or economics in general is some theory which is related to the capitalist economy or market economy, or we can say competitive economy, either way we can call it, where the private enterprises play a big role, not the public enterprises. If the public enterprises play a big role, huge role, then that is not capitalistic economy. That could be called as a socialistic economy, which we will come to understand the differences between them in the next classes. But whatever we are going to discuss, we have to be very clear. We are not talking about the socialist model of economics. We are talking about the capitalist model of economics, which is market economics. And business economics is pragmatic in approach. Pragmatic is nothing but practical in approach, and it will look at the problems in the real world and tries to solve them or give solutions to the problems in the real world, at least in a scientific manner. That's what business economics tries to do. Though it is theoretical, it is not purely theoretical and abstract. It will be applicable in real life also. That is why we can call that pragmatic. And as we discussed earlier, it is interdisciplinary in nature also, means business economics is not just about pure economics. It has lot of other disciplines also which will be useful, including mathematics, operations research, management theory, accounting, marketing, finance, statistics, econometrics. All these things are going to be in conjunction with business economics. They will be helpful in the process of business decision making and policy making. So this is not just a standalone subject. Generally, any subject will not be standalone. This is also not an exception. So this is not a standalone subject. This is always workable in conjunction with many other subjects. However, once again, are we going to do all of them? Definitely not. We are only knowing that this is interdisciplinary. Are we really making all the subjects in one place? That is not possible. At this level, it will be only possible at a level when you really do these things in the real world, which will happen quite some years from now. So, but these are the areas that business economics will tell us about various items of real world, and the features of business economics tell us what is its nature, what are the features, all the things we can say as a science, as an art. Business economics is there. Microeconomics also, macroeconomics also. It is going to be mostly using the theory of markets, and it is pragmatic in nature and interdisciplinary in nature. So these are the various theories, or we can say the features of business economics. Now there is one thing that we have postponed yesterday to this class, that is whether the business economics is mostly positive or normative in nature. In fact, whether business economics is normative or positive, that is a debatable issue. It is both actually, positive and normative. But our interest is not on that, but our interest here should be more on knowing what is positive, what is normative. Earlier also certain words are used. It is pragmatic. There is no big deal about it. It just means practical. Interdisciplinary. Again, no big deal about it. Interdisciplinary means it has lot of other sciences also, other disciplines also, other faculties also included in as a part of application of it. So there is nothing special about it. So these are words, important words, but they are self-explanatory mostly. Pragmatic, interdisciplinary, like the other aspects which we talk about, science, what is a science, and that too, what kind of science it is. Is it a pure science or an applied science? So that also is an important. So business economics is in general called as an applied science rather than a pure science. So like this, these are the words which are earlier there, but directly those are all relatable to business economics. Now, this whether positive or normative, business economics is positive or normative. Of course, as per this heading, it says business economics is normative in nature. There ends the matter. That's okay. Now we can know it is pragmatic, it is interdisciplinary, it is normative. These are the features of business economics, we can say. That's what we're talking about. What is the discussion all about? This is the nature of business economics. These are the features, nature, characteristics, whatever we can call it, of business economics. So it is normative in nature. Very easy to remember. But what is normative is important. Why? Because even in the examination questions, there will be a definite question on whether a particular statement or a sentence or a discussion is positive or normative. That is why, more than knowing the economic theory, whether it is positive or normative, whether business economics is positive or normative, that we don't need to have a debate now, though it is a debatable thing. We can just conclude that since it is given in the book that it is normative. Okay, let us all accept it is normative. Let it be there, no problem. So business economics is normative, sir. Agreed. But the question is not that. The question is, sir, what is normative first of all? What is positive? That is more important. That is what we should definitely know in deeper level. Let us understand them one by one. What is positive? Positive sometimes can be called as pure science analysis, which will analyze the cause and effect relationship between variables in an objective and scientific manner. Each word has a weight behind them. What is a positive thing? Positive, this is not that positive negative. Huh? Don't mix the vocabulary that you know with the vocabulary we are knowing now. So positive, negative, that positive, this positive are not same. When we say positive science, we are talking about pure science. In this context, we have to use that word positive. So positive or pure science, what does it do? It will analyze cause and effect relationship between variables. That's what it is science, right? That's what we talked about here. What does a science do? Science majorly focuses on cause and effect relationship. So the question now is, a positive science or pure science is the one which does this analysis of cause and effect relationship between variables in an objective and scientific manner. Objective is another important word. There is always these two words which are used as opposites. What is objectivity and what is subjectivity? Once again, people use them according to their understanding of vocabulary, but no, vocabulary is always to be used in contextual manner. Same word in one context will have a different meaning. If the same word is used in another context, it will have a different meaning. So let us say Mr. Kiran has an objective of passing CA foundation. Is that the objective we are talking about here? No, sir. That objective in that sentence was talking about goal of that person, whatever the name you give, target, goal, objective, that is different. Here, objectivity is different. What is objectivity? Is having a rational analysis of the things in a scientific manner and without any judgment. Main point is without any judgment. That's what is objectivity. So there will not be any judgment when we talk about anything that has objectivity. When that objectivity can be achieved? When we don't judge, then only the analysis can be objective. For example, let us take one statement which tells us, sir, today temperature in Hyderabad is 40 degrees Celsius. That's all. Is that an objective statement, or is there a judgment involved in that? There is no judgment, because this temperature is not measured by our brain. It is measured by one device, whatever that device may be. So certain device has measured this temperature. We are only just communicating, telling that temperature today in Hyderabad is 40 degrees Celsius. There is no subjectivity in that. Now take another statement. Today it's very hot. Is that an objective statement? Answer is no. Why? That is not telling something scientifically. It is having a judgment here. Hot. Hot for you. Hot for somebody. It may not be hot for others. Maybe for somebody who is used to staying in 50 degrees Celsius, 40 degrees may not be that hot. So somebody who is staying in, let us say, minus sub 0 degrees Celsius temperatures, maybe they will die if they are in 40 degrees Celsius, just like that also. So the point is, there is a individual's judgment. That is a choice, or we can say the feeling of an individual. That is subjectivity. Whereas in objectivity, there is no choice, there is no judgment, there is no feeling or opinion that is expressed. None of them are there in objectivity. Objectivity is purely a fact. So when we say positive science or a pure science, it talks about certain things which are as rules, like certain cause and effect relationship will be there. So this cause and effect relationship will be on the basis of a scientific approach, on the basis of an objective approach, not on the basis of any judgment. In other words, simply, it will tell what is. What is? Means what is, exactly what is. So what is means whatever the fact is, that will be told by which science? That is positive science. Whereas the other side of it, which is normative science, which will tell what it ought to be. So what is different, which is a fact. What it ought to be is a wish or a opinion or a judgment. So here a person's thought process is involved whenever you say what it ought to be, and what is an example of, is a point where fact is only just going to be mentioned. Another example we can take from the contextual contemporary situation. Let us say during the lockdown period, which happened due to the coronavirus spread. During the lockdown period, there are 10,000 workers who are going from city X to city Y. What is the kind of statement we are talking? That is a positive statement, which is only telling something which is a fact. What is it is telling. Then another statement in the same period related to the same situation. Somebody else is talking. Somebody else is talking like this. Somebody else is talking like 10,000 migrant workers are going from city X to city Y. They should have been provided with food and water. That is what is talking about what ought to be. So positive or pure science is what will tell. It will tell the cause and effect relationship between variables, which is an objective and scientific thing, without any value judgments, and it will tell us what is. And whereas normative things will tell what it ought to be. So ought to be, when it comes, that becomes descriptive in nature, that becomes subjective in nature, in a sense that it describes the economic behavior of the individuals or society. So in the point here, there are two things here. One is descriptive, one is prescriptive. So a lot of words used here. Two sides we can say. We can draw the two sides here. Let us say one side is positive, other side is normative. One side is positive, other side is normative. If that is the case, what is going to be the differences between these things? Let us talk about. So let us say positive, right? And there are certain things which are normative. Okay. So what are the things which are describing whether something is positive? What are the things that are going to be describing something called positive signs? Positive, again, don't take positive, negative. Don't go to that type of distinction. Positive, negative is different. Positive, normative distinction is different. What are the things which are all positive in nature? First of all, the first word used is, when it is positive, that is going to be a pure science. That is going to be what? A pure science. Positive is a pure science. And what about normative, sir? Normative is a applied science. That is the difference. So positive is a pure science. Normative is an applied science. So that is first point to understand. When we talk about positive, what is there? Objectivity, it is there. There is objectivity. Whereas when we talk about normative, there is subjectivity. What is objectivity? What is subjectivity? That should be also known. It's a very important classification even at a philosophical level. Objectivity means reality. That is what is. Whatever it is, as is. That is objectivity, reality. Subjectivity includes some judgment, some kind of opinion. That is called subjectivity. Just for understanding purposes, I will give an old example, even which is there in the old scriptures in the Indian education system. That is called Rajju Sarpa Bhranti. Means, imagine there is a person who was walking in the dark, somewhere in the midnight, and suddenly something very soft has touched his legs. And immediately that person got shocked, and he has almost shivers, naturally thinking that it is a snake, sarpa. But immediately after some time, once he has found that maybe he has a torchlight in his pocket, he opened that and tried to search where that object which has touched his feet is. The reality is that after throwing some light on that, he found it is not actually a snake, it is only a rope, a soft rope which he has touched with his feet. Then he laughed at himself. It was actually a rope after all, but I was so afraid that it might be a snake. This is the story. Story is very simple, but it gives rise to a very high level philosophical discussion. Simply put, first question, when he thought it was a snake, was he wrong? Debatable. With objectivity, if you see, it is wrong. Why? Because in reality it is not a snake. He thought it is a snake, means he is misled. He was not having clarity on what he has touched. So, when he said or thought it was a snake, it was his subjectivity which was leading him. So what was his thought? That is subjectivity. That was his opinion. That was his judgment. That there was a snake on his feet. That is called subjectivity. When he has actually looked at the same place with a light, when he found that it is not a snake and it is actually a rope, that rope is reality. And that reality, after he identified what is that, that is objectivity. That is reality, as is, what is. What it is a rope. When he could find that after throwing light on the ground. So the point here to note, as a part of learning process, not only about economics, is a general learning process of any human being. Forget about any course, any particular academics, classes, colleges. These are all some things which are different. These are anyway there at their place. For any human being, the learning process throughout the life, maturity of any person throughout the life is what? When we say that person is learning or has matured over a period of time, along with age, What is the journey? The journey is simply from subjectivity towards objectivity. That is the process of learning. Subjectivity is about judgment, opinion. I think, I feel, I assume, I may, all these things will come. That is all subjectivity. Because there is I in that. That is what a person thinks about others or other knowledge areas. But what are those knowledge areas? Those are in their place only. That was a rope only. If you thought it was a snake, that is not the mistake of the rope. That is your problem. So, subjectivity and objectivity always are opposite with each other. The problem is, objectivity is what is desirable. Subjectivity is what we all have as human beings. That is the difference. Because we are not robots. We will be almost, I would say, like overwhelmingly subjective. I can use that word. Always will be like overflowing with subjectivity on a daily basis. That is what human beings are. We are all like that. Everybody is like that. But what is the process of learning? When can we say some person has knowledge, some person has wisdom, some person has gained maturity, okay, he is growing, not just physically, we're talking about psychologically, spiritually, and philosophically. When can we say that? When a person makes an attempt to move away from subjectivity and tries to attain objectivity, which is very difficult, not easy to be objective all the times. So that's what they say. When we have this Rajju Sarpa Bhranti, Sarpa means snake, Rajju means that rope, Bhranti is illusion. When we have an illusion of something or a judgment of something, it may be reality, it may not be reality. Again, don't be under a wrong impression that that person, whoever had this Bhranti, whoever had this illusion is stupid. No, we are all like that. Maybe imagine if it was really a snake, then if he was just thinking that it's okay, maybe it is not a snake, like that if he thought, maybe he would have died with a snake bite. So that is wrong not to react also. So can we say that he was wrong when he reacted as if it is a snake? No, we cannot say he is wrong. But can we say right whatever he thought about? No. So that is a problem there. That is a conflict there. So always the subjectivity, objectivity will have conflict, and subjectivity is something that everybody will have their own judgments. But what should we try? What should anything try is moving away from subjectivity and going towards objectivity. So in a simple word, when we say subjectivity, it is more of an art. When it is objectivity, it is more of a reality. If you show a particular diagram or a painting to two different people, particularly let us say modern art, whatever they call, ask two different people to analyze a modern art. Both of them might give completely different analysis. But the art is same. That is reality. That is objectivity. The feeling of the person or the judgment of the person is completely different. That is the difference between objectivity and subjectivity. In other words, objectivity is about reality, subjectivity is about opinion. That is different. Once again, you can relate it to your exams also. For example, we call them objective type examinations. For example, this paper itself, economics and BCK paper, is an objective paper. You all use it very number of times. Why is it objective? Not because it has multiple choice questions. In that case, we could have called it MCQ paper. Why are we calling it objective? Because, not because of you, because of the valuation process. The valuation process in this paper and the quantitative aptitude paper is not done by human beings, that is done by computers or machines, which means they will not have any judgment. They will not have any kind of subjectivity. They don't have any opinion about you. They don't know anything about you. So objectively, whatever is reality, if answer for question number 5 is B, it is B. That's what it knows. Maybe it could be C also. B and C both are okay. All these things the computer does not know. No judgment, no debate, no opinion possible there. It is purely objective. That is why these exams are called objective type examinations, wherever multiple choice questions are there and one answer is only correct, and the system generally checks whether there is a correct answer or wrong answer without going into the details of how the person has got. Maybe a lot of times people get wrong answers also by fluke, correct answers also by fluke. System doesn't care. It doesn't know your level of knowledge. It doesn't judge you actually about your level of knowledge. But when you talk about a descriptive paper or a subjective subject, so the papers which are, you can say, subjective or descriptive, what you popularly call, there is a judgment involved by the valuer. For example, when you write accounts paper or law paper in foundation, the valuer is not a machine, valuer is a human being. So they will judge you. They will definitely judge you whether this particular student has the sufficient knowledge or not. They will come to a overall understanding of your level of knowledge, preparation and all that. So that judgment cannot be taken away from human beings. Machines need not have judgments. Machines will work objectively because mostly they only try to know what is rather than what it ought to be. That is the difference between objectivity and subjectivity. So when we say positive science, it is more objective in nature. When we say normative science, it is more subjective in nature. When we say positive science, it is pure science, also it can be called as. And when we talk about normative science, it can also be called as applied science. So that is another point to be noted. Another word we can use it here is like, we can say this is descriptive in nature. Which one? The positive science is descriptive in nature. Descriptive means it just tells us what it is, but it will not prescribe anything. So what this is prescriptive in nature. That is the difference once again. So these are the words used here. You can observe them. So descriptive in nature, which one? That is positive science. What is normative science or normative things? Those are not descriptive in nature. Those are going to be prescriptive in nature. This is prescriptive in nature. So that is the difference between positive and normative. So this is very important to note. So positive is more of pure science, normative is more of applied science. Positive will tell us what is, or you can say what is the reality. That's what it tells us about. Whereas the normative will tell us what it ought to be. So this talks about what is, and this talks about what ought to be, or what should be, we can easily call it. What should be. The particular course of action will be told by normative things. So normative is something which will have a judgment. Here there is no judgment, no opinion. So we can call this more of a fact, and here we can call this as a opinion. Same way we can call positive things about reality, whereas the normative things are more about judgment. Like this, any number of differences can be written about positive and normative, but in general these are the things that we should note. All of these characteristics are there for positive science. All these characteristics are there for normative science. Of course, business economics is both. Business economics, we cannot say it is purely normative, but generally it is normative in nature. Generally it is more prescriptive in nature. Both are definitely will be there. Business economics has micro also, macro also. But in general what? Mostly micro. Same way, business economics is both positive also, normative also. However, in general more what? More normative or prescriptive in nature. This is what business economics is about. Normative science. But again, as I told, we are not much interested in knowing what is business economics. For that, this heading is enough. Business economics is normative in nature. There ends the matter. That is not our important aspect to note in this entire paragraph. We should be very much aware of what is the difference between these two things, two words, positive and normative. That is the very important aspect you should remember. What are the aspects related to the positive type of sciences? Those are pure sciences. whereas normative sciences are applied sciences. Positive sciences will have more objectivity, normative sciences will have more subjectivity. Positive sciences are more descriptive, whereas normative sciences are more prescriptive. Positive science will tell what is reality, and normative science will tell what it should be, what it ought to be. That is what normative will tell. Positive will tell us facts, normative will tell us opinions. Positive will tell us reality, normative will tell us judgment. So that is the basic difference between positive sciences and normative sciences. You can understand this importance when we answer the questions. There will be a lot of questions we have to answer. A statement will be given or a discussion will be given between people, and you will be asked to identify whether it is a positive statement or a normative statement. How can you do that? If you know clearly what is the distinction between positive and normative, you should be able to do that very easily. That is the difference between positive and normative. Of course, business economics is definitely going to combine both positive as well as normative, no doubt about it. Nobody is going to tell it is only normative, but emphasis is more on the normative, not on the positive. That's what you have to understand. So business economics combines the essentials of normative also and positive also. However, the emphasis is more on the former. Former in this case is what? Normative. So that is why we say the word or the heading itself, as it mentions, business economics is normative in nature. That's it. That is the conclusion in relation to the nature of business economics or features of business economics, with a particular emphasis on what is the difference between positive science and normative science. These differences everybody should be very clearly aware of. That is the important aspect which will be tested in the questions. Now moving on to the scope of business economics. Of course, the scope of business economics is very wide. Are we going to touch entire aspects of business economics? If that is the case, that everybody who actually the CFOs of the companies, CEOs of the companies, whatever they face, we should be knowing all of that. And that is not our stage also. Our level does not definitely support that. But at a theoretical level, yes, we can understand what are the issues generally that business economics addresses. And as we already know, this can be classified into two categories. One is microeconomics, second one is macroeconomics. And what are the areas where microeconomics is applied? Naturally, microeconomics is applied to operational issues or internal issues. Internal of what? Internal of an organization. If there is an organization, a company, let us say a factory, it will have a lot of operational issues. And which type of business economics will address them? Microeconomic principles will address those issues. Then what about macroeconomic principles? We should know them. Once again, we are not going to learn in detail of them, but we should know that macroeconomic principles are also applied. That is also part of business economics. However, they are all applied to environmental or external issues. Once again, environment here does not mean go green, all that. No, not in that sense. Environment here means business environment, economic environment, not the natural environment, trees, marine life and all that. That is different. That environment is different. That is nature. We are not talking about that. We are talking about business environment or economic environment, which is definitely outside the organization. That is why we call them as external issues. And when we have internal issues, everything inside, within the organization will be related to microeconomics within the scope of the organization. Outside this organization, there is a business environment. Of course, there will be a huge business environment outside the organization. Those are all external issues, but both of them will be addressed by business economics, though the focus is more on internal issues. What internal issues, what type of operational issues business economics will address? So what are we talking about here? Once again, we are talking about the scope of business economics can be classified into two categories, micro and macro. Microeconomics apply to internal issues, macroeconomic apply to external issues. Now what we are going to know in this particular discussion is what are those internal issues or operational issues. Simply speaking, these are the issues which are within the control of the management. Within the purview and control of the management, these are all called operational issues or internal issues. That is where the microeconomic principles can be applied. These are not outside the purview of the management. They are not outside the control of the management. Management can control them. Management has purview on them. That is why internal matters. These are not external matters. These are all internal matters. Like what? It could be many things. It could be choice of business, means which business to choose, what should be the size of business, product decisions, technology decisions, factor combinations, pricing decisions, sales promotion, financing, management of investments, inventory. These are all some of the few examples of operations or operational issues. Like this, there will be hundreds of them in reality, which will be called operational issues, and those will be part of the internal affairs of an organization, but they are all within the purview and control of the management of the organization. And who will address these issues? Which branch of business economics will address these issues? Naturally, microeconomics will address these issues. What are these issues? Again, just examples are given. We don't need to really go in depth about all these things. We will definitely go through them in future, because most of the techniques which we are going to know the names of are going to be used in next levels, intermediate and final levels. Here we are only knowing the names, headings are enough. That's enough. So one of them, operational issues, very important operational issues, is demand analysis. The name itself indicates. Demand analysis means what is the pattern of consumer preferences and how the demand changes according to the changes in price of the commodity, income of the consumers, prices of related commodities, consumers' tastes and preferences, etc. These are all part of demand theory that we are going to study in the next chapter. So definitely we will come to the demand analysis as part of microeconomic theory. Then we will understand in detail. Now all that we need to know is, boss, there is a theory called demand theory and analysis called demand analysis. And demand forecasting is something which is a technique of predicting the future demands for goods and services. That's called what? Demand forecasting. That is a technique of predicting the future demand for goods and services. Predicting does not mean somebody is telling any astrology here. There is no fortune telling we are talking about here. It is a scientific forecasting technique with which we can forecast, we can project, or we can budget, we can predict the future demand for goods and services. Once again, are we going to do that? We are not going to do that. Do we know all the techniques how to do that at this level? Absolutely no. But all that we are knowing now is, because there is a technique of demand forecasting which will be very important for any organization. Why is that? Why demand forecasting is very important? Because everything that is related to the production, you take raw materials, labor, machines, equipment, buildings, everything that is required for a business will have to be planned well in advance. And how is it possible without knowing the demand? Just for understanding purposes, let us say we want to know how much of raw materials to be purchased. How do you know that? Until and unless you know how much production you have to do, not possible. Next, continue this. Once you know that production this much I have to do, then you can order number of units of raw materials which will be useful for that production. That's okay. But how do you know how much to produce until and unless you know how much you can sell? So ultimately everything stops at what? Demand forecasting. In future, in costing subject, the same thing we call it as budget. And we call this as sales budget. So every budget starts with sales budget only. Without sales budget, there cannot be a production budget, there cannot be a raw materials budget, there cannot be a labor budget, there cannot be a capital budget or anything. Every other budget depends upon sales budget. That is the fundamental point. And we will apply them in future in CA intermediate level, but now we are only knowing the names. And what is that we are calling here? That is just called as demand forecasting. So demand analysis and demand forecasting are very crucial things for any organization. Demand analysis is more of applying the theory of demand for the purpose of decision making. Demand forecasting is basically a technique of predicting future demand of goods and services. That's what all done by the management. Within the purview of management, demand analysis and forecasting is there. So, which principles will be applied here? microeconomic principles will be applied here. Same way, production and cost analysis. This one we don't have to wait for a CA intermediate, we have it here itself. Here, this first part also, demand analysis part, we have in the foundation economics. In this same subject we are discussing. Production and cost analysis we have in this subject. Demand forecasting, we will only have a theory of that, but application we are not going to have it now. We will have it at a later stage. Production and cost analysis, definitely we have it as two different chapters we have within this same subject of business economics. So we will definitely discuss those things in detail at that level. Of course, what do they tell? Name itself indicates. Production theory explains basically the relationship between the inputs and output. Simple. Inputs means various things that will be inputted into the production process. Output means output which comes out of the production process. So in any general phenomena, there will be input, process, output. Production is that process, and that cannot run without inputs. And whatever the outcome of production process is called as output. There is the names which are self-explanatory, and that's what production talks about. Relationship between them will be explained by production theory. We will definitely discuss all those things in the chapter of production theory. And not only that, we have a cost theory analysis, so that will enable to understand the behavior of the costs, and once again how they are all related with each other, and how the cost theory is related to production theory. All these things will be known, will be understood in detail in the chapters where we will discuss them in the part as a part of the syllabus of business economics only. So in the microeconomics we are going to learn about demand theory, that is demand analysis you can call it. Production and cost analysis you can call it, that we are going to do here only. Inventory management, nothing we are going to do at this level. All these things are going to be dealt at CA intermediate level as part of costing subject. All these points we are talking are useful in reality. When a manager or a CFO works in an organization, he is not going to have chapters, he is not going to have subjects. He cannot say from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. I will apply economics, from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. I will use mathematics, from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. I will apply costing, after that I will take lunch, then I will start FM. Not possible, he is not a student. So learning process is different, application process is different. These are all more application oriented things we are talking. Because business economics itself is application oriented and the scope of it is very wide. Within that, microeconomics is applied for operational issues which are within the purview and control of the management, which are internal to the organization, and some of the examples of them we are talking about here, not learning them, though we will learn them later. Some of them within foundation and some of them at intermediate level and final level also. These will be learned, but we are only knowing the names of them now. Just titles this is, nothing related to the contents of these items. So demand analysis is demand theory, demand forecasting is a technique. We are not going to use that technique, but we know that there is a technique now. That's all. Production and cost analysis we are definitely going to do as part of business economics subject only within foundation. Inventory management is something that we are going to deal with, but in the costing subject in CA intermediate level later. Right now, we don't really work too much on that. But definitely one thing everybody should know, irrespective of whatever the subject it is. Inventories means not just finished goods. Inventories include raw materials, work in progress, and finished goods, and various policies in relation to the inventory management like ABC analysis. Some of the techniques like simulation and other mathematical models will be used, not now, later. Those will be all used as part of inventory management. Now all that we need to know is there is a particular topic or science or subject called inventory management. Within that, we will understand the process of managing three types of inventories, which include raw materials, work in progress, and finished goods. That's it. That is also part of internal issues of any organization. And not only that, market structure and pricing policy is very important. This we have a lot of areas of this within the business economics, our paper only. But the name indicates that what is the market structure. So simply, which structure of the market we are in has to be identified. There are different types of market structures. We will come to them later as part of chapter 4 later, which might include monopolies, monopolistic competition, pure competition, oligopoly, But any organization has to identify in which market structure they are operating. And according to the market structure, their pricing policies have to change. And how do they do that? How should they do that? What are the theories of pricing in different types of markets? Once again, if you remember, that is part of syllabus under this subject only of business economics. So we have the theory of demand, which is part of syllabus here, part of the microeconomics, theory of supply and consumer behavior, consumer preferences, and production and cost analysis is the next chapter, that is also part of microeconomics and part of business economics, useful for internal issues. Inventory management is part of it, but we are not going to discuss that now. Market structure and pricing policies is definitely one of the chapters that we have. We will discuss that as part of business economics in the chapter number 4 later. Resource allocation is a generic word, so a lot of businesses need to allocate the resources by using certain technique like linear programming and all. Don't even think about them. Those all will come at final, not even at intermediate level. That is only just to know the name, nothing to do with them. Same way the capital and investment decisions, we will come to them in financial management paper in group 2 of CA intermediate. Then we will look at how investment decisions are made, how the capital has to be raised in a simple way, how to raise the money and how to use the money. That's what it is going to be majorly focusing on, the financial management aspect. That also we are not going to deal with now. Now, no, not possible. It will be dealt in group 2 of CA intermediate financial management paper. Same with profit analysis also comes under part of the financial management, profit analysis, profit planning, profit, you can say, estimation, budgeting, all these things will be part of costing and financial management chapters. Later, in the next levels only, we will discuss that. Risk and uncertainty, in a big way, you will be learning this topic in final level, not now. So many of the areas of microeconomic issues or operational issues which are internal to the management, within the purview and control of the management, most of them are going to be dealt at a later stage. That is also part of our chartered accountancy course. In future we will learn them. But what are we going to focus mostly now in the foundation level economics? We are going to focus on the demand theory, consumer preferences, of course demand forecasting only as a model, not application of that. Very importantly, production and cost analysis, we are going to deal with that. Market structures and pricing policies, we are going to deal with that. But all others, we are not going to deal with them now. They will be dealt at a later stage, be it intermediate level or final level. That is what the list or examples of internal issues of an organization which the microeconomic theories will help out solutions for. Then macroeconomics are issued, or though macroeconomic things are applied to environmental issues or external issues. Naturally, this also we know. Microeconomics is internal issues, macroeconomics is about external issues. Same things already almost given earlier also. Those are mostly related to macroeconomics. Like what? What is the type of the economic system? Like capitalism, socialism, mixed economy. What is the type? We will touch that in this subject because that is a basic thing we should know. That is the second unit of first chapter. In this subject only we will come to that. Business cycles also we will touch here only. We are going to definitely learn these two things in foundation as part of economics paper. But all the other things we are not going to touch now. They are all going to be discussed as part of macroeconomics, which is called as economics for finance in CA intermediate group 2. Till that level, we are only just knowing the names here, which we already touched, like national income, like GDP, unemployment and employment, prices, means inflation, savings, investments. All these names are already there. What are the trends of them? Government policies, like what are the government policies and how they will have impact on the economy. There are many policies like industrial policy, competition policy, monetary policy, fiscal policy, like that foreign trade policy, globalization. All these things, a lot of policies governments will take. And what is the impact of them on an economy as well as an organization, we will come to know in the part of macroeconomics. Very importantly, the financial sector and capital market. Financial sector includes banks, financial services, institutions, insurance companies, mutual funds, etc. Capital market also includes stock markets, bond markets, money markets, mutual funds market, Like that, many areas are there which are going to be learnt in CA intermediate level as well as at final level in future. So mostly in these entire macroeconomic aspects, our focus in foundation level is only going to be the types of economic systems, broadly three: capitalist, socialist, mixed economy; stages of business cycles, that is the last chapter, chapter number 5 that we have in this subject. All the remaining things in relation to the macroeconomic indicators, government policies, different sectors within a country, financial market and capital market, other socio-economic organizations, how do they work, like trade unions, consumer unions, what is their impact on the overall society and economy. These are all macroeconomic things. And not only that, in general, if we talk, the social and political environment also will have an impact on organization. How they will have impact on organization, what is their role in a system in which the organization is working, that is all part of macroeconomic environment we can call. Business environment it can be called. I think a portion of that you can understand even in business and commercial knowledge also. But that is a broader thing. Most of that in detail is going to be discussed at a later stage in CA intermediate and final level. Our focus mostly here is only on types of economic systems and business cycles. Whereas all these other items, most of these other items, what are all there here, these all will be discussed in future learning process, be it CA intermediate or CA final, right? But now what we should understand, if you observe any of these things, none of them is within the control of the management. That is what we started, no? What are internal issues, operational issues, microeconomic issues? Those are within the purview and control of the management. Who will do demand analysis? Management will do. Who will do demand forecasting? The organization only will do. Production and cost analysis within internal, inventory management, internal. And these are all within the control of an organization. So some management decisions will make sure these are all done in a scientific manner. However, if you look at the environmental issues or external issues, we cannot decide. An organization cannot decide whether the economy should be a capitalist economy or socialist economy. That depends upon the government choice or the people's choice. So organization cannot decide, I always want to be in a boom period. Not your choice, boss. Whatever the business cycle is happening in the real world, if economy is booming, you will also be in that. If economy is in recession, you will also suffer from that. So there is no control on these items. Any of these items if you observe, nobody, no individual, no organization will have control on these items. That is why these are all external issues. They are not part of an organization. These are all external issues. We should know them. We should definitely mold our decision making process according to them. No doubt about it. However, we may not have directly any control on them. But understanding this environment is very important. Without understanding any of them, if we just try to take decisions, then naturally those decisions can go wrong. So that is the reason any business manager should not only be aware of their internal issues, which anyway they have to take decisions on a daily basis or operational level, on a day-to-day basis. They have to take anyway many such decisions regularly. That is their internal issue. However, they should also keep an eye. They should also have a proper antenna to receive what are the things that are happening in the business environment. What are the external issues behaving like? How is the employment tendencies? How are the prices in the market? What kind of social and political environment is there outside the organization? How the government policies might have any impact on us? Every such thing has to be always closely, keenly observed. But that is all not part of microeconomic theory. That is a macroeconomic environment, macroeconomic analysis, macroeconomic issues, you can call them. Those are also equally important. However, they may not be part of our syllabus at this level, right? That is a point here, and point to note here as we are just talking about all these factors. One common point is nobody has any control over these factors. We cannot control them, rather they control us. So naturally what we have to do is we have to adjust our decisions according to the environmental changes. So that is a very important awareness point that every business manager should have, which will be, that is why very important to know and note as part of macroeconomic theory, which we will definitely learn, but not now, at intermediate group 2 level as part of economics for finance. That's it. That is the end of unit 1 of chapter 1. And just quickly, if you go through the summary of this chapter, all the things that we discussed only, nothing new here will be there. First of all, an economy exists because of two facts, and what are those facts? Human wants are unlimited and the resources are scarce. And economics is the study of processes by which the relatively scarce resources are allocated to satisfy the competing unlimited wants of human beings in the society. So basically, how the resources are allocated is the core subject matter of economics. That is the essence of economics, we can call it one way. In other words, production and distribution. That is where everything ends with. So that is the subject matter of economics, which is core of economics, allocation of scarce resources to different people within a society. And how this can be divided into two parts, micro and macro economics. Of course, microeconomics, what it examines, how the individuals, consumers and firms will have decisions made so that they efficiently allocate the resources. So basically microeconomics is focusing on individuals who are consumers or firms, individuals and organizations we can call them. However, the macroeconomics studies the large economic aggregates. Macroeconomics, whenever we use the word, we should immediately remember this, aggregates. Like what? Examples are many. Level of output, consumption, saving, investment, inflation, interest rates, for currency, balance of trade, government policy, taxation, fiscal policy, monetary policy, many things like that will be part of macroeconomics study. However, when we talk about business economics, it integrates the economic theory with business practice. So theory comes from economics, actual reality application comes with business practice, which happens in reality, not by you and me. That is what happens in business economics. It relies on the economic analysis in the formulation of business policies. So both are integrated here. One on one side economic analysis, on the other side that analysis is useful in the formulation of business policies. And simply when we talk about business economics, mostly it is concerned with microeconomics, though macroeconomic analysis also is there in relation to environment in which the business has to function. Once again, don't think business economics is equal to microeconomics. No, sir. Business economics is majorly microeconomics, even with a little bit of understanding of macroeconomic environment. So purely it is not microeconomics, majorly microeconomics. There is a difference between them. Identify and understand that difference. And another thing, just now what we discussed about is very important point also. Business economics is a normative science. It is not a positive science, and it is interdisciplinary in nature and pragmatic in approach. That is the feature, characteristics, nature of business economics, we can call it. In general, the categories of business issues to which the economics theories can be applied can be categorized into two categories. One is microeconomics, which is applied to operational or internal issues, and macroeconomics, which is applied to environmental or external issues. These are the two areas where the application of business economics happens. Microeconomics is for operational or internal issues. Macroeconomics is for environmental or external issues. That's what happens. Of course, what are those things? They are all given here in this summary of all of them. Part of microeconomic analysis, like what? Demand analysis and forecasting, production and cost analysis, inventory management, market structure and pricing policies, resource allocation, capital and investment decision-making process, profit analysis, risk and uncertainty analysis. All of them are part of microeconomic analysis, which are basically the operational or internal issues of any organization. However, other things like macroeconomic related items also will be there as part of business economics, though we don't learn them now. They will be there. Like what? What type of economic systems, what are business cycles and where we are now, what is the national income of the country where we are operating, how is the employment or unemployment, inflation levels, savings, investment, government policies, financial sector, capital market. All these things are macroeconomic environmental issues which are outside the control or outside the purview of the organization or management, we can say. So point to note here is, when we have these two things, this one, there is a control and purview. First category of these things, microeconomic or organizational things, the organization or the management can have a control on them, whereas the organization or management cannot have any control on these items, which are macroeconomic things. That is the major thing we have to identify. Of course, when we talk about our current syllabus or now what we are talking about, we are only focusing on the original topics like demand theory, supply theory, consumer behavior theory, theory of production, theory of cost, and various markets and pricing decisions to be made in various markets. That's all. That is our scope. Of course, business cycles and types of economic systems is also part of it, though it is macroeconomic. A little bit of, we will say, we'll touch those topics, not much into details of them. Majorly, microeconomics is what we are going to focus in this subject. All the other things, like what? Like inventory management, product and promotion policy, resource allocation, blah, 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 blah. All of them will be known at higher levels of CA course. So don't worry about any of these names. All these names will come again. We are not going to leave any of them. Everything will come, but not now, at a later stage. And you have to be patient till that time to reach. Okay? With that, we can conclude the first unit of chapter 1. The chapter 1 is nature and scope of business economics. In that, most of that is already done. What is the nature of business economics and scope of business economics? We already observed that within this unit 1, which is introductory unit. And now you should be able to identify whether we reached the objectives of this chapter or not. Did we? At the end of this chapter, you should be able to do this. Are we able to do that? Can we explain the meaning of economics? Yes. Can we describe the meaning and the nature of business economics? What are the features of business economics? Yes. And what is the scope of business economics? Yes. That's what is the overall nature, or we can say scope of business economics. That is the purview of this chapter. And we identified the differences between micro and macroeconomics in a very sharp manner. And we also identified the nature and scope of business economics also, telling that it is a science, it is mostly based on microeconomics, and though it is based on microeconomics, still it incorporates some elements of macroeconomics. And not only it is a science, it is an art also, it is pragmatic, it is interdisciplinary, it is normative in nature. All these things are nature or characteristics of business economics, and that's what is the scope of this chapter. That is unit 1 of chapter 1 in CA Foundation economics paper. With that, we can conclude this unit 1 of chapter 1. And in the next session, we'll continue with unit 2 of chapter 1. Till that time, take care. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.